But I'm really about to spoil all this for you, so listen up. Hey everybody, it's your sweet Serenade, and today we are gonna do a review of A Quiet Place. I have yet to figure out what exactly I want my niche to be, and so at this point in the game, I'm just going to start doing the stuff that interests me, and whoever is gonna end up liking it is just gonna like it. This is A Quiet Place Day 1. So I have seen the first one and the second one. If I'm being quite honest, I only remember little bits and pieces of the first one. But if I'm being honest, the whole film, like the whole kind of thing kind of left something to be desired for me, or I guess just in the way that I like to enjoy films. And if I'm being honest, I love horror movies. I love a good drama. I love things like that. Now, I will say for a horror movie, and mind you, spoilers, 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 so I don't want anybody to be upset with me. I saw this movie yesterday. Now, was I expecting a scary movie? Yes, and that is exactly what I got. However, I did not realize this movie was gonna have me in my feelings the way I was, but if I'm being honest, the movie having me in my feelings the way it was actually gave me the whole, like, what is it? Whole roundedness, the roundedness that I needed from the original Quiet Place movies. That element of the movie is very important, and I feel like it made things make sense. Our cousin Lupita was in the movie, so you know we had to go out and support. And funny enough, in the first few scenes, it was one of my faves from Hereditary. So, A Quiet Place Day 1. Of course, we see Lupita, whatever, in all her glory. And, you know, at first I was like, you know, did she get a little done? But no, hair and makeup was doing what needs to be done, because guess what? This girl was in hospice. It was the saddest thing, and she was a poet and everything, and that's why our first supporting character, I forgot his name. I need to get the characters right, so let me just see. So Sam, she is terminally ill. Like, the nurse, what was his name? Her nurse, Ruben, that was the first guy from Hereditary. His name, he was the nurse who was in charge of just keeping people active while they're in hospice care and going through the things they were going through. And Sam, she was definitely one of the younger patients that were there. And she was, of course, very depressed and things like that. And she was really into poetry. And Ruben, the care worker, is like, you know, you should write this poem. And she's basically like doing a rundown. This place is shit. It smells like shit. This guy, when he like, it was crazy. You know, this real disrespectful, real miserable, but it's fine because, you know, that was the only way she can cope in that time. Like, I think maybe they were like in Jersey or something like that, and it was a special thing for them to go to New York. Not special, but it was like one of the things, like field trips. And I think he said that it was I think he said it was like maybe a poetry slam or something like that. It ended up being like a puppetry show. So she's super adamant. That is basically not only the poetry slam, which he was very into, it was also her getting this pizza, because he was like, before they left also, Ruben was saying, oh, when's the last time you went into the city or whatever? And she was like, well, the last time we went, they said that was supposed to be the last time. So it's really like days away, unfortunately, for Sam. Even though Lupita said nothing on his on this bus ride, she had her earbuds in, and like the emotions that kind of went over you, because, you know, they're going through the highway. She's listening to her music. She's not really paying attention to the people around her. And they pass by this graveyard, and it's kind of like a foreshadowing of like inevitable of what's to come to her. But little does she know, or anybody else around them know, that honestly, for the most part, it's going to be all of them, regardless if you're well or not. Get to the puppetry show. Of course, Sam is pissed. She's like, Ruben, yo, you told me this is the poetry slam or whatever, and it wasn't. But she was enjoying the show for a minute. It was just like blowing of a balloon, and I guess it would symbolically, it was supposed to mean hope and, like, you know, flying away, and then the balloon pops, and it was part of the show, but it was something that was super emotional to her, because it kind of felt like, you know, I did all this trying, I did all this soaring, but, you know, there's nothing else I can do because I'm not well. You know, that got a couple tears out of me. Her passing by the graveyard was a lot for me too. I was just in my feels, okay? Great script, great storytelling when it came to these great, like, emotions that all the characters are giving us in this movie. But anyway, when the balloon pops in the puppetry show, Sam gets up with her cat, because she has an emotional support cat. And, she gets up and, she walks the streets a little bit, pretending like she's well again, that she's part of a city or whatever. But yeah, so after the puppetry show ends, I don't know how much longer, but she didn't leave far or whatever. The puppetry show is ending or whatever, and they're loading the bus. And then there was definitely commotion in the city that was a little bit outside of normal, but still, of course, city is normal. People are doing all the things they wanted to do. So Ruben gets this phone call, and you can tell like it's super serious. And he's like, no, we need to go back to the hospice care. So we just need to get everybody loaded up. And then Sam's like, so what about our pizza? And he's like, yo, I'm really sorry. And you can tell he's very sympathetic to Sam, but you can tell by like what's going on between like the military trucks and everything else that it's something super serious going on. And of course, Sam is like, listen, these are my last days anyway. I don't give a about what's going on out here. I want my pizza. Of course, Ruben, he's great at his job. He's very connected. You can tell to his patients. And, she gets frustrated. She's like, you're not my friend. You're just the nurse and all this other stuff. And you can tell he was kind of hurt by this, because you can tell he really cared about his job. But, it was just the state that Sam was in. So she gets back on the bus with her cat begrudgingly or whatever, right? So she puts her earbuds in and they're starting to drive. When I say just starting to drive, I mean they're not even driving, rolling for 30 seconds. So like they didn't even get up to speed yet or hit a stoplight. So as Sam is sitting there with her earbuds, she's just kind of reeling. She's upset she's not eating the pizza. And you can kind of see like people are starting to get up out of their seats. And so she's not paying any attention to any of this at first. But then after somebody else gets up, she turns around and she's kind of looking, and everybody's just kind of looking. Everyone around her, like everybody in, sorry, I'm getting all close to the camera. I'm really into it. Everybody's like really into it, like looking to see what's going on, even the bus driver and all the other cars around them. And so they see like these meteors like coming down, everybody's like in awe, like no one's speaking or anything. Some time passes as they're looking, and then you just start hearing all these crashes and like it's bombs going off and everyone's like freaking out. It's pandemonium. There's dust everywhere. You really can't see really what's going on because things are being bombed. So they don't know if they're under attack, if it's a meteor shower, they don't know yet. But somehow she ends up getting off the bus and she's like shell shocked. Like she's witnessing everything but not really seeing the magnitude of what's going on, and she's hearing screaming and swooshing of something and all the dust and the commotion, and eventually another car I guess flies over her and she just blacks out, and Sam loses her cat and people are just lost or whatever, right? And so eventually she comes to, which she finds out ends up being the puppetry theater that they all saw the show at, and it's Jaimin Hansu. We love him. Oh, I meant to say that Jaimin Hansu and his family in the movie, I don't even know that. I don't think he was actually named in this because, it's a quiet place. No one can really say anything. This kid is like, obviously it's a cat. So the kid's like, oh my God, a cat, before the show is starting. And, she's like, she fixes her face. She's like, oh, this is blah, blah, blah. And, she's letting him pet the cat or whatever. But foreshadowing how, these are people that you see like in the movie as the plot goes on. So in the commotion or whatever, she comes to after everything's happening, and it's Jaimin Hansu with his hand over her face. And he's like, do not say anything. Do not say anything. Do not say anything. She doesn't know the magnitude of why she needs to be quiet, and something brings her cat. Cats are curious. I always say every day that these are outdoor animals. They do not belong in the house. They're going to get you into some trouble. And that's exactly what this cat was doing. So the cat jumps up for whatever reason and races out into the lobby vestibule of this puppetry art center. And of course, Sam, she gets up and she goes, Ruben follows her. And so, some kind of noise happens because, the cat's playing with the door or something like that. And, Sam is just like, I get y'all want me to be quiet, but I need to get my cat or whatever. And Ruben's like, no, stop. Right? Just trying to get her to like, leave this cat alone. And as the cat is playing with the door, then that's when one of the alien creatures, whatever the hell it is like, snatches the door open, and it's a whole, commotion. They have to be super quiet, and it gets super close to Ruben's face. Like, close call, he almost dies. And that's when it's finally clicking to Sam, like, yo, this is like the end. Like, you know what? I'm going to get pizza. And you can tell she's not taking no for an answer. Ruben is like, no, I'm not doing that. We're not doing that. We need to shelter in place. We need to stay safe. And as that's going on, as they're having this conversation, you hear the helicopters. They're going around the city like, hey, shelter in place, remain calm, and keep quiet. And she's like, listen, this is the last good bit of Patsy's that's ever going to be. I'm going to get it. And you know what? With that much, even if I was Weldon in their situation, I'm like, you know what? This obviously seems like a world that I don't want to live in. I ain't made for that. I'm made for Uber Eats and air conditioning, okay? I don't got time for this. I probably would have went along with her. Oh my goodness. He's like, oh my gosh, he's coming to terms with it. He's like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to go get pizza. So as they're having this conversation on the notepad, the generator comes on for the building that they were in. And of course, it's creating all this noise. And so Ruben runs up and he changes the valve on it last second, right? But as he's getting up, his shirt tears on one of the hinges on this generator. And that's when one of the creature, unfortunately, got him. It's over for Ruben. Super cool dude. We got to pour one out for our guy, right? So, of course, Sam, even more sad that all this is going down, but it wasn't her fault or anything. And she's like, she leaves the place and she is gonna go get her pizza. So she's, super calm. Of course, the cat lied on his feet. The cat's gonna be fine regardless. I keep telling y'all about these cats, right? So, Sam is just doing her thing. After Sam dies, or before, somewhere in the timeline, they go up to the roof of this building and they're just seeing what has happened to their city, what is going on, how do we unpack this? And they see the fighter jets bombing, as we saw in I Am Legend. We already know how it's going to go down in New York. God forbid something more to go down, in that sense. But yes, they, of course, started cutting down all the bridges onto Manhattan just to slow the spread of whatever is going on, or the alien invasion, whatever is going on when it comes to this. And everyone's getting to see what's going on. So of course there's all this noise between the buildings being bombed, the helicopters or whatever, and they're on the roof. So of course all the aliens are coming in, running across the roofs and trying to get everything else together. And there's a guy who comes to in the middle of all of this, and Jaimin Hounsu was there because he was one of the people who went upstairs to see what all is going on. And the guy's coming too, but of course he's more erratic than Sam was when she came to, and he's covering her mouth and he's like, oh my God, and he's trying to scream and he's like, no, be quiet, really trying to get him, but he's not understanding it. And in the moment of him just trying to get him to be quiet, he accidentally kills him. I guess either hits his head on the back concrete or snap, I don't know, something like that. But you can kind of tell he was shocked. And then the mere fact that his son was peeking around the corner, he was realizing this is completely a different world that we're living in. But yeah, so this is when Sam, I believe, finally goes out and she's like, screw it, I'm getting the pizza. And there was a certain point during their walk, she's more at peace. It's kind of like, yeah, the world's ending, my world's ending too, but we're just going to have a good walk. We're going to have a walk, we're going to get pizza, and, we're going to live out the last of my days and hours. So I guess while she's on this walk, there is a signal that that everyone needs to evacuate to, I think it was south, more towards the Hudson Bridge or whatever, and there's going to be boats because this is when they discovered that the aliens do not like being around water. They can't be in water and everything else like that. So, as she's walking, she's starting to see people, of course, quietly walking in the streets, trying to get to this place to, evacuate. And, of course, there's people mostly are, not carrying no luggage or anything else like that. But it was it showed, the cinematography, guys, and it was just cinema. Everyone's walking one direction, and Sam, of course, is the one person who's walking in the opposite direction, just trying to get her pizza. And of course, at this moment, no one's really asking why, because this is the end of the world. No one's really caring about what the next person's doing. But just to see this crowd of, thousands of people walking one direction and her going the other is just like, it's the end. It's the end. And everyone has their own things that they want to get done at the end of the world, But yeah, so she's kind of taking note of what all is going on this walk. And she's seeing, the people are going, some people have suitcases, just trying to pack up their lives to whatever is going to happen after this. And, there's glass on the ground, there's broken cars. So, of course, after a while, this, a large group of people, it's going to make a lot of noise, relatively. And she catches on to this. And as she kind of, she's moving away from the crowd, that's when one of the aliens notice and the crowd gets attacked. And I'm sure some of the people are able to be saved. But yes, in all of this, she's ending up, finding her way. And, the cat's getting lost and the cat's going, but the cat always finds his way back to her too, even through all of this. And I think that was super cool. But yeah, at a certain point in the film, we see, other survivors, and this other man, I can't remember his name. Let me see if I can find his name. Eric is an English law student, and he was there. His parents, told him to go to New York to, make it big and to do, what you want to do and start your life. And Eric, you can kind of tell that he had his own ways. Eric on the Low is one of my favorite Eric characters. If I find a man like this, I'm holding on to him, because when I say Eric is a real man and the closest embodiment to Courage the Cowardly Dog, when I say that man will do it scared, he was going to do it scared. And that's some kind of stuff you got to respect. We love Eric around here. He was really the MVP of this movie. One of the MVPs, him and Jaimin Hounsoo's character, he was an unnamed character, but yeah. But yes, he was in the subway and it flooded, and all of that. He was breathing heavy and everything else, but with all the sound of the water, they couldn't hear him. And plus he was in the water. And so it's a storm that happens. And through all of that, it gives the people enough time to, really just enough time to figure out how loud they can be. And it was a pretty big storm, it was lightning and thunder. And, it's always scaffolding in New York. So it was the pitter patter on a hot tin roof, essentially. So if they could whisper under the rain, they said, then they were able to talk a little bit. And that's when she finds out more about Eric. She tells him where he needs to go, because obviously he's shell-shocked. He doesn't know anything. He was just trying to survive, and he didn't hear any of the stuff that was going on about people to evacuate. And of course, he just gives nervous puppy energy, real Courage Cowardly Dog-like. He follows her, and I guess in a sense, she's like, listen, as long as you can help me, or not even that, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And then after I get done what I need to get done, I'll tell you where you need to go. Because obviously he's not letting this woman go alone. But yeah, so they end up going back to what was Sam's old apartment. And he ends up learning more about Sam, about her being terminally ill and how she was a poet and all this other stuff. And really, Eric was really he was really giving Slim and what is that traumatic movie that came out? Oh my god, that was definitely a movie you can only see once. Not Slim and Husky, Slim and something. It was basically when they both died in the end. But anyway, he was definitely making, even though it was the end of the world and it was the end really for Sam, he was really adamant on making it the best for her and the last of the time that they even had, because he didn't even know if it was going to be the end for him. Anything could have happened. It could have been an accident, made too much noise, and poof, it was over for them. And it's funny, in the rainstorm, they kind of have this moment where they're both, frustrated with the direction of their lives, just as, Eric did as well in his own way, going to law. He's like, this is the one thing that I did right in my life. And they have this moment where they kind of are, of course, they're always got to be quiet, but the lightning is going and they just scream in that moment. It was just a good release they both kind of had. But yeah, so after that, they're doing their run of going get this pizza, and the rain stopped, and when she finally gets to Patsy's, whichever this pizzeria's name is, it's a truck drove through it. It was completely on fire. There was nothing left of the pizza. And so, of course, she was like heartbroken, as I would have been too. But she made the best of it. And then he asked her on the notepad, Eric did, and he asked her, so where was the other thing that you and your dad would do? Because her going to this Patsy's place, it made her feel more connected to her father, who was also a jazz musician, who was the most amazing piano player that there ever was. And so she took her to the jazz club that they went. So they walked to the jazz club and they have a drink and all this other thing. They had a really good time. She, she's very sick. So she has all this medication she has just to keep her comfort during this time. And in one of her moments where she comes to, because she has to lay down, she's exhausted, her body's on fire. I don't know what kind of cancer she had, but it wasn't good. But she just needed pain meds, and he understood that, and he's like, what medications do you need? And so he takes it upon himself to get the medications for her. And yeah, like, when I say, like, he went through it, he found the medications, and the cat ended up following him to get these medications. And when on the way back, as he was able to get what she needed, there was a mound of something that the aliens were doing, and they were growing something. It was so bizarre, but the animals in this movie, the aliens in this movie were very, I would say, primal in the sense of, they didn't wear clothes. It was just it wasn't like the Martians with the suits on. It was just like, they out here, they're trying to do what they came here to do, whether it been sprouting, whatever. So it was kind of barbaric, I guess. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. But yes, the cat goes and is like, investigating basically what the heck is going on. And this cat just noticed anything. And of course, he's trying to save this cat. Eric, you should understand, cats have 9 lives, you have 1, so I need you to act correctly. So, of course, him in his investigation, he follows the cat, trying to save this cat, carry the cat back to Sam and, make sure she's as comfortable and as happy as she could be, because we all experience loss at this point in the movie, right, if you were in their shoes. So he's basically just seeing what they're up to, and he almost gets killed, of course, getting on these beams and just watching the cat, and the cat's surveying what's going on. He's surveying what's going on. They get a little information what's happening, but not really much of anything. Maybe in the second movie I would have learned more, but I didn't know anything, so I don't know. I'm just here for day one, you guys. But yeah, by the skin of their teeth, and even the animal looks at them, he was super quiet, but he was able to escape with the cat. And yeah, hyperventilating and all, the guy did it. Scared and all. You gotta respect Eric, okay? Eric is the MVP. So he brings the meds back. She is eternally grateful for all of this. And yeah, they're going on their journey to figure things out. So, and he figures everything out, and I guess he disappears for another moment. He goes to on the way back, he also sees a pizzeria. So he grabs a box of pizza and he writes Patty's on the box, and they eat cold pizza together. And she's like, it's okay or whatever. But it was just the gesture that was just so kind. He got her meds for her, made sure her cat was okay, and he got her a box of pizza. And so this is the point where, they're trying to race against time, because those last few rescue boats or whatever mission to get survivors out are about to leave. So, they're making their way down the street or whatever. But yeah, while they're still at the club and they finish their cold pizza, he does these magic tricks, like, the little card, and he's like, just trying to cheer her up the best way that he can in her last times, And so they leave the club after they have their pizza, all their drinks or whatever, and they're making their way to the docks so that Eric can, go with the survivors, because, Sam, she doesn't care either way at this point. But she gives him her sweater, and she has this other jacket on, and what we didn't know is that she left a note in the letter. And as they're walking, they kind of notice the creatures, the aliens, kind of congregating around the banks of the Hudson. And then, yeah, Eric is just like nervous energy, but just still so much courage. And like, he just gets them through every single obstacle that they have. But yes, they see the boats. And they notice the aliens kind of congregating and following these boats as they go along, but they are very safe on these boats in the middle of the river. And so this is when Sam gives Eric her cat. I think his name is Frotto. Yeah, I think it's Frotto, the cat, whatever. But she gives him the cat and she goes on her way and she's telling him basically, go to the boats, I'll distract them. And so she gets like this crowbar that was on the ground, and as the creatures, they're paying them no mind because they're looking at the other people that are over there because they're not loud, but they're louder than, you know, they would think. But yeah, they're doing little horns so that if people are able to get over there, that they will. So Sam gets the crowbar and she's like, you know, making the car alarms go off on these cars so that Eric is able to escape. He narrowly escapes. He has to dash through the aliens after they're like running to see where the noises are coming from that are closest to them. And he narrowly escapes them as they're all chasing them, and he jumps to the water and he makes it to the boat. And as he's holding the cat, he finds the letter and he's like, you know, thanks for reminding me to live, you know, even if things seem bleak or whatever. And yeah, he understood that Sam wasn't gonna come with him, and he ends up meeting Drum and Houndsu, his kids or whatever. And, you know, they're going off into the sunset as the world is ending. And then we see the final scenes of Sam listening to Feeling Good. And she walks to the streets with a boombox, but her headphones still in. And as she's walking, and she unplugs the earphones to hear it loud on the boombox. And of course, the creature comes and takes her. And I think that was just like an allegory of her just, not only did she got to live even with the end of the world, she got to she got to take her own destiny, if that makes sense. She got to end in her own time. So yeah, it was a really good movie, you guys. So yes, it was scary, but be prepared to cry a lot in the sense of you will be all up in your emotions. But yeah, out of 10, I would say, I need to come up with a scale of what gives me the movies, but we're gonna make a scale. So we're gonna do the scale out of 10, and I would give this movie, I would give it a strong 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, 8.5 out of 10, and that's scored based upon aesthetics and cinematography of the movie, the acting, what else, and story. I kind of want to do set design, but no, I'm going to put that all in the first category because we don't want to be all into that. Well, maybe we could eventually, but that is the rules out of 10. I'm going to actually make a graph of this and we're going to figure it out. But yeah, guys, I would definitely 10 out of 10 recommend to see this movie for sure. And honestly, tell me what you guys think. Did you guys see the first and second Quiet Place? I didn't like those two at all. I felt like it was crazy. It was ridiculous. But yeah, this movie, I very much so enjoyed. But yeah, definitely like the video if you would like to see more of this type of content, or if you already saw the movie. And definitely comment below if you think cats are no. Like the video if you also agree that cats are outside animals. Leave comments with your opinions of the movie and what you think you would rate this movie. Let's do a before and after rating. Before the movie happened, I was going to rate it, truthfully, I was going to rate it an 8. After seeing it, 8.5. Yeah, the trailer I rated an 8. The movie I gave 8.5. And I feel like the movie lived up more than the trailer gave. Like, the trailer gave nothing away. So, yeah, go out and see it.